Hello and welcome to Transactional Analysis Made Simple with TA therapist, supervisor and trainer Bob Cook.
Hi.
And in this kind of section or this little episode, we're talking about key theory in transactional analysis. And in this episode, we're talking about symbiosis.
Yes, we are. We certainly are. Now, the term symbiosis is a biological term. So it's borrowed from the biological literature. But in terms of the psychological literature, and certainly from the way it was used by Jackie Schiff and the cathexis school, which was predominant in TA in the early 1970s, it basically means when two people act as if they were one.
Yes.
In the American literature, of course, the word would be codependent.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, and you say it's a scientific word, symbiosis. It's things like ivy growing on trees. The tree benefits from having the ivy wrapped around it, and the ivy benefits from being able to climb up the tree. We see that in a lot, don't we? Animals, animals that live on each other. That's a symbiotic relationship, just to be clear. So why is it an important term in transactional analysis, Bob?
Well, we've got healthy symbiosis, where, of course, from early infancy, the infant wouldn't survive without the care, attention of the parent. So that would be a healthy symbiosis, but an unhealthy one is what I've just said, when two people act as if they're one. So if we let's take two people here then. So you've got the parent, adult, child. So we've talked about that in terms of different parts of the self, parent, like, you think, feel and behave as if you were a parent, adult here and now, and child, you think, feel and behave as if you're a kid. And the same. So we've got two people, 6 ego states. Now, an unhealthy symbiosis would be when, as I said, when they actually deny 4 parts of the self and just operate from 2 dimensions of the self. So, for example, a client comes in, this is made up. Client comes in and says, what I would like to be, he's about 40 years of age, I'll make this up, and he says, okay, I'd like to be in a relationship. I haven't been in more than, say, 3 months, for example. And you find out after phenomenological inquiry or just talking about his history that he still lives with his mother. And why that's important is he says, do you know, Bob, my mother still vets the people that I bring back that I might want to be in a relationship with. And he's a teacher, and he talks a little bit about how his mother irons his shirts in the morning and actually makes all the sandwiches for him, different sandwiches on a Monday, different sandwiches on a Wednesday, different sandwiches on a Thursday, and basically infantiles him. So he has no opportunity for his own truth.
Yes.
And that would be an unhealthy parent to child relationship. So what he would need to do is break that bond, that infantile bond, and grow up to achieve an adult to adult relationship.
Yeah, and that's something that does happen a lot, doesn't it? That symbiotic, codependent relationship. So you talked about an unhealthy symbiosis.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of wondering if there is a healthy one.
Yeah, like when the baby's born, and all they see the world through their own needs, and the only person can look after, attend to those needs is the mother. So that would be a healthy one.
Yes,
that's a healthy process, isn't it?
Yes.
The process turns unhealthy when there's no attention. No, how can I play? When there's a problem in the separation individuation phase, where the child is not psychologically allowed to grow up.
Yes. Now you're speaking of, I think, Margaret Mailer.
Yeah, that's right.
Splitting, and the fact, and an example of that is when a child, and I speak as a grandparent, throws the dummy away and won't take the breast. That's a sign, isn't it, of them moving away from what we know we call in the Gestalt world confluence, where they can't separate one from the other, to being an individual and forming their own personality and standing individually in the world.
Yeah, they lack the ability to take their own agency.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because the other whoever it is, whoever the caretaker is, mother, father, whoever, denies them that ability.
Yes.
So they end up stuck in this infantile position. So you've got a parent-child symbiosis.
Yes. I wonder, I know we talked just before we pressed the record button on this episode about the cathexis school and the radical reparenting. And I often wonder, having read Clarkson and the intersubjective 5-model relationship, you know, Clarkson talks about the repatriative style within the relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that a form of symbiosis, or is that not quite the same thing?
Well, what she talks about when you're talking about reparative work, you're talking about developmental model. The therapist takes the, if you like, the parental stance in transactional terms, and through the medium of regression, goes back or meets the child at the age where the deficit is.
Yes.
And then through new permissions, there's a healing or repairing.
Yes.
So there's a repairing of the symbiosis. So in the example we just talked about, the person who stayed infantile and wasn't allowed to have opportunity of their own truth, and the mother was overpowering them. So what would happen is then that the therapist, through regression, this medium going back in time, if you like, would go back and meet the infant in the separation, individuation phase where the healing needs to be, say, and give you permissions. You know, permissions like it's okay for you to be who you are. It's okay for you to take your own agency. It's okay for you to grow up.
Yes, and I think what's really interesting, when I did the TA 101 course quite a few years ago, one of the things that I remember the therapist who taught me saying was that she worked with a client who regularly regressed into this kind of child state. And one day she just said, "That's enough."
Wow.
Yeah, that's enough.
Wow.
In other words, you know, to halt that slide back, she and I always thought that was quite an interesting, if bold, intervention.
Yeah, and it's modeling down to the person. Look, you don't have to stay little anymore.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to, you know, grow up, be who you are.
Yeah.
You're alive, and given these types of permissions, and that's the reparative work that Clarkson talks about.
Yeah, and I think that happens in all modalities of therapy.
Yes, that's important to say.
Yeah, and you know, certainly it's something I speak to my supervisees about on a regular basis, not to underestimate the reparative part of the relationship. The fact that if it's okay for you to be you, it's okay for your client to be the client.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And you know, in transactional terms, when a person is in contamination, we're going to talk about this on another video. They're in symbiosis.
Yeah.
So, for example, many of the clients may think they're an adult.
Yes.
But actually in child.
Yes.
And they often come from a victim position looking for the parent in this symbiosis. And so the job of the therapist is what I've just said, really, is to help them move to an adult to adult position by giving them different types of permissions and different types of encouragements, which perhaps didn't come from the early parents. So you help resolve the symbiosis.
Yeah, I think that whole idea of symbiosis, permissions, intersubjective, reparative style, you know, speaks so much of therapy in general. I think good therapists gain that skill and that knack of within the relationship of doing that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in transactional terms, what's very important in any TA training is that you help the therapist to be alert, so that they don't enter into a symbiosis themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's really vital. You know, you talk about confluence. It's the same process, that the therapist is aware of their own counter-transference enough to not collude with an unhealthy symbiosis.
Yeah, and I guess that links strongly into the safety mechanisms within therapy, you know, the therapy contract, so that there's a baseline, so that the therapy just doesn't drift. And you know, and we I spoke last week in the humanistic world about a regular review.
Correct.
For the same reason, you don't get therapy drift, or you don't get dependency building in.
That's right. And when Jackie Schiff used, are you quite right? The radical reparenting and symbiosis came out. That term used more and more in that school. Eric Berne in 1961 put a huge emphasis on contractual theory as the basis of his new TA theory. So in other words, there would be a contract and an explicit mutual understanding from an adult to adult place of where they're going.
Yes.
And that's so important. Whether you're going to go to reparative work, whether you're going to go wherever you're going to go, but the beginning of the therapy is an adult to adult contract.
Yeah, it starts off on that position. That's the first position, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not made from some sort of symbiotic, unhealthy position of parent to child where the analyst or whoever makes some sort of interpretation or theoretical understanding. This is an adult bilateral explicit agreement. And what a wonderful position.
An essential. I'd say it's the essential position.
It's not symbiotic, it's adult to adult.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I found that conversation really interesting. I learned a lot. So what we're going to be looking at in the next episode, Bob?
Oh, a wonderful concept. Perhaps my favourite.
Go on, then.
Drugs.
Yes.
You know, when I say to you, Roy, you just said it to me. I found that really interesting. You were passing on a real stroke. You know, you were saying to me in a very recognizing way,
yes,
I liked what we did. So you were stroking me in a way, and it is the basis of self-esteem.
Yes. Well, we'll look forward to that, and I hope the people who are watching will look forward to that. We'll put a link in the comments bar to your website, where there's lots of interesting things about transactional analysis. But until the next time we meet, when we talk about strokes, we'll end it there. So thank you very much, Bob Cook.
And from one stroke to another, thank you.